All right, I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Ruach Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. All right, the name of this one is Who Could Make War with the Beast? And pretty much this is centered around just different videos and pretty much the weaponry, the high advanced weaponry that Esau used to get up into Venezuela, extract the president of Venezuela, Maduro, his wife, I believe her name was Cecilia Flores, Nicolas Maduro and Cecilia Flores, and pretty much the, I'm just trying to find some words for it, like the over use or the exaggeration of the weaponry that America used. I was also watching the video by the brother Ayasha Moth out of the Mississippi camp, and he was playing different videos, making different points. And he played a video with Pepe Escobar and another individual. And pretty much the sentiment that, and then he played a video with Trump, pretty much cursing Exxon out because Exxon said, it's a waste of time going down to Venezuela because even if they invest 180 or was it $1 billion into it, they wouldn't get a kickback till about 60 years later because they said the infrastructure is so bad down there. Now I don't know if that's just like they did during the time of when the Federal Reserve was passed, or just before it was passed, you had the two top investors or two top businessmen that were speaking against it because they were really for it, but they would act like they were against it so that the senators and the people could vote for it because they were known to have part or to be involved in big business. So I don't know if that could be another ploy because that's how these devils operate. They don't deal direct, they deal indirectly. So, or it could just be true that the infrastructure is so bad that, these companies that were supposed to invest down there, are no longer interested because it's pretty much, it's a long shot. It's like a long turnover, and they wouldn't see anything for at least 60 years or so. And we're almost out of here. So what I did, and so, pretty much there was like overkill, when they went up into Venezuela, and they pretty much didn't show any mercy. You know what the scriptures say, you shall have judgment without mercy, they have shown no mercy. And I'm gonna read this scripture first, and then we're gonna get into this question that I asked, on the Google, Revelation 13:3, and it says, and I saw one of his heads as they were wounded to death. When you understand this chapter, this is dealing with the Roman Empire that was wounded this same year when this prophecy was written, beginning with Domitian, which was of the Flavian dynasty. His father Vespasian, his older brother Titus, he was a younger one. It was like it was a triumvirate, not like a triumvirate. It was a triumvirate, which the word triumvirate, tri is three. Overant or virant is where you get the word virile, which is basically just simply means three men, pretty much ruling jointly. And when Jake took over 96 AD through Nerva, who was also a Jake, they pretty much ran the Roman Empire as it was pagan. They didn't change anything. They just pretty much took over the power and just continued ruling it the same way that the Edomite Romans were ruling it, So that head, which was the Roman Empire, was wounded at that point, It says, and his deadly wound was healed, and the deadly wound wasn't healed until the Renaissance period. And these other seven, were coming back to life, which was really the Roman Empire was coming back to life. The other six were, allied to it. And eventually America, which was the eighth head, came out of that whole union and pretty much was established. Right. And now we see America and have seen America as a superpower. They're losing influence in the world. They're losing economic, grasp. But one thing that they remain strong in is their weapons, which is their sword, which is their blessing. It says, and they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. Right. So pretty much that was the Roman Empire, being reestablished in this time. It says, saying, who is like unto the beast? Because the consensus is that there's no other nation like America. And that is true. No other nation has the overreach of America. No other nation has the potential for, the military, the strongest military on the planet. No other nation has a global financial influence and a structure or infrastructure to facilitate all the merchants of the earth to make money. Right? It says the main point here is who is able to make war with it. So the point is that the American military is really the only military, along with their allies, of course, NATO and the EU, that this can be applied to, because, other nations, do not want to get involved in the mix with America, although eventually Russia, China, and other nations are, even including the allies of America, are going to shoot their missiles on America. But at the end of the day, they're not trying to get involved with America. And even the one soldier, I believe, in Venezuela that did survive that thing, I believe it was him that gave the statement that he doesn't want to go through that ever again, or unless it was a bystander. They never want to, experience that type of warfare ever again. And the point is that America, the way they use it, it was overkill. They didn't have to do that. Just like when they went into Panama, they used laser technology just to try it on the people to see how it would work. And that's how these devils operate, so they have no mercy. So the Lord, when Yahweh Shai comes back, he's not going to have mercy on you. He's going to tear your ass limb from limb, and it's going to be, you're going to get a taste of your own medicine. So what I did was I typed in what type of weapons did America use in Venezuela to abduct President Maduro, and how many soldiers were involved, or something along those lines. So it says on January 3, 2026, the United States conducted a military operation codenamed Operation Absolute Resolve to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. Celia, not Cecilia. I think I said Celia or Cecilia, I forget. From a compound in Caracas. Weapons and technology used. The operation was characterized by the use of advanced and unconventional technology to incapacitate Venezuelan defenders. And that's what it was. They were unconventional. They were advanced, more advanced than anything that they had. So they were ready militarily to fight. They had like Cuban, mercenaries, I guess you could say, bodyguards, but they were incapacitated and taken out, So it wasn't that they lacked heart, that they didn't have, skills, that they couldn't fight, that they, weren't, equipped to fight. It's just that they were not prepared for this type of warfare. And that's how these devils operate, so they show no mercy. So it says weapons, and okay, we read that. Sonic/directed energy weapons. It says eyewitness accounts from Venezuela guards alleged to the use of a mysterious sonic weapon that emitted intense sound waves, causing soldiers to suffer from nosebleeds, vomiting, and inability to stand. Experts have suggested this could be a form of directed energy weapons, such as the U.S. Army's active denial system. Aviation and airstrikes, approximately 150 aircraft were involved, including F-18, F-22, and F-35 fighter jets, B-1 bombers, and various drones. These assets were used to conduct large-scale strikes on infrastructure and disable Venezuelan air defense systems. Cyber warfare is a wave of the future. As right now, as we speak, Iran just waged cyber warfare on America by, directly, sending some type of microwave or some type of signal to block out Starlink, because America was planning, for things to escalate. But as soon as there was a media blackout, or should I say a internet blackout in Iran, all of the protesters just stopped, doing what they were doing, because they were, hoping that America would get involved. I mean, I don't know all the details, but just basically from what I know so far, they were hoping America would get involved to remove, the so-called leadership or whatever the case is, or however they're painting the narrative. And then all of a sudden, everything went blacked out. I think it was 80% first, and I think it went up to 100% if I'm not mistaken. Like I said, I don't know all the details, but this is pretty much what they did. And they said that they must have got that technology either from China or Russia. Sources are pointing fingers are pointing more towards China than Russia. So this is the new wave of the future, cyber warfare. And these advanced weapons that you see Esau using, whatever you see them using, they have something that's 20 years more advanced than what they're using. And they use these situations like Venezuela, like when you go back to Nicaragua? No, Panama, Nicaragua too, but really Panama, when they use those laser weapons, which was due also down in Panama, back in, I believe that was 1992. So these devils, man, they show no mercy when it comes to warfare, and that's pretty much what that's what the scriptures say, that they took peace from the earth. So it says U.S. Cyber Command was credited with a role in the operation, leading to reports that the U.S. used cyber attacks to shut down the power grid in Caracas during the raid. Small arms special forces were reportedly equipped with highly precise weapons capable of rapid fire, described by witnesses as firing at a rate of roughly 300 rounds per minute. So that's even more. It's even like more. I would dare to say even higher rate or speed than the Gatling gun. Which was how they took Gad down. Prior to that, they were losing because Gad, was skilled in guerrilla warfare. And there was an account, I'm not sure if it was in a book or something I heard of, I forget where I got the info from, but there were actual Gadites that would be, Esau would shoot at them and they'll dodge the bullets and keep coming and keep coming. Esau keeps shooting, they'll keep dodging the bullet and they'll come up to him and slit their throat. So they couldn't compete with that. So when they came up with the Gatling gun, that's what changed the game. And these devils are not afraid, and they're not they don't show mercy when it comes to using the weaponry that they have. So it says entry tools, ground forces use specialized equipment such as blow torches to breach the fortress, like metal, blah, blah, blah. Personnel and forces involved. It says ground extraction forces, approximately 20 to 200 elite special operations soldiers took part in a direct raid. And I believe they said it was 12 specifically that went and grabbed, President Maduro. It says the primary unit responsible for the capture was the U.S. Army's Delta Force, assisted by CIA operatives and an FBI unit. Supporting personnel, the broader campaign, including naval support and regional positioning, involved up to 15,000 troops and 4,500 sailors and Marines. Casualties, the U.S. reported 0 fatalities among personnel, though approximately 7 service members sustained injuries. Conversely, reports indicate at least 23 to 100 Venezuelan security officers and 32 Cuban military personnel were killed during the operation. So it was overkill. It wasn't really a fair fight. It was the odds were stacked in America's favor. And then, it was also a clandestine operation. so they were caught off guard. So pretty much no one was able to make war with the beast, and scriptures say you shall have mercy, you shall have judgment without mercy, that have showed no mercy. And this is why when Yahweh Shai comes back, he's coming back to tear you limb from limb. And the scripture that came to mind was 2 Ezra 13, how there's not going to be any form of mercy when the Lord comes back. He says he's going to roar like a travailing woman. He's going to roar like a lion. He's going to shout when he comes back, to let out all that, all of that, waiting, that, the weight that he's been waiting for, exhale to get, vengeance. Finally, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, say, okay, son, you can go. So if he and his father were the same, would not he already send himself down here? For them clowns out there that say that the Heavenly Father and the Son are the same entity. So 2 Ezra 13:1, it says, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed the dream by night. Oh, and by the way, Christians are now using the Apocrypha, trying to go to the Apocrypha when they condemned it before, especially them so-called apologists. They're trying to use the Apocrypha now, trying to get their game up, as the Elder Pastor Arps pointed out, coming against the Hebrew Israelites. You clowns didn't know how to what's the word I'm looking for? Debate as far as, street debates with scriptures. All you knew was that, this manuscript or that manuscript, like that clown, Dr. James White, the Edomite, and then you go to this manuscript and that manuscript say, I beat you. Fuck out of here. So it says, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, and that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man, which is Yahushua, waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, which are the angels. So Yahushua and the angels are coming back to kick ass. And they have advanced, super advanced, out of this world, futuristic type weapons. This is why I believe it was two retired Air Force pilots, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember the report correctly, that reported that when they saw these chariots, their technology was 100 years to 1,000 years more advanced than anything that the American military has. And remember, America, they're not shy. They're not bashful. They don't, draw back when it comes to using that technology. They show no mercy. So when Yahushua comes back, he's not going to show any mercy because he's coming to wage war. All right. It says, and when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. Right. Because, matter of fact, this brings to mind, let's go to Luke 21. You have to understand, like you can see movies, you can see different ID4 and all these different movies that show you so-called aliens, but they always show you the American military always winning at the end. That's not the outcome. That's not the outcome. That's not what the outcome is going to be. It's going to be totally, totally different. Let's go to Luke 21 and 25. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun. This is signs to usher in or to let us know that Yahushua is on his way. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations. And we're seeing that happening right now. Let's look up this word, distress of nations. These are the uproars of the people. You see, there was a massive protest going on in Iran until, there was a blackout in the internet, and that signal was blocked out. Starlink was blocked out by the Iranian forces, So, hey, Sunoke, a holding together, a narrowing, the contracting part of a way, metaphorically, straits, distress, anguish, right? Because it's like there's a big fire in a building, right? And there's only one way out. And there's 500 people in that building trying to get out. And they're all trying to go out that one way. And it's a slow, grueling, agonizing wait. You don't want to get burned, but people are moving slow because only 1 or 2 people can get out at a time. And you got 500 people to go. And that thing is starting to burn quickly, So it's a distress of nations. So they're perplexed. They're distressed. They're, catching hell. You know, they don't know who to blame. They're blaming their governments. They're blaming America. You know, so this is all part of the signs that Yahushua spoke of that would be happening on the earth prior to him coming back. It says with perplexity. Matter of fact, let's look up that word perplexity. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same. Nope, it's different. A different word. Aporia. Aporia. The state of one who is in perplexity. Okay, that ain't saying much. Let's look up the word perplex, which means to be troubled. Perplexed of something complicated or unaccountable. Cause someone to feel completely baffled. Why are they going to be baffled? When they're looking at the chariots, when they're looking at that gigantic chariot Yahushua is coming in, when they're looking at these different chariots, they're going to think, oh, it's aliens, it's, you know, aliens. You know, they're not going to know what to do. They're going to be perplexed, baffled, troubled, puzzled. All right. And then there's another word here, quandary, state of quandary. I believe I heard this word before, but quandary, a state of perplexity, of uncertainty over what to do in a difficult situation. Yeah. So you're going to be left there baffled, not knowing what to do from all of the stuff that's happening, you know, from all of the, you know, not the mishaps, the stress of the world, you know, the hard times, you know, the uncertainty of life in these times, right? It says, and upon the earth, the stress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. Yeah, you're going to see tsunamis and, you know, different things happening worldwide to let us know that Yahushua is on his way. Now, there have always been wars. There's always been famines. There's always been plagues and pestilence all through our history. So what makes this time different? Well, what makes this time different is never in history has it happened all at once as it is, and never in history has there ever been an infrastructure set up technologically like today's advanced technology that Esau has. That's the difference. And this is the reason why the Lord allowed this devil to tap into that technology to set up what we know today as the internet, to be able to propagate this word even more all over the planet, because, you know, the Lord said that when this gospel is preached throughout the four corners of the earth, then the end shall come. And Christianity, Roman Catholicism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, all of those different religions have been around for ages. People know everywhere around the world you go to, they'll know about, you know, even if they don't accept it, they know about Christianity, they know about Roman Catholicism, they know about Islam, they know about Buddhism and Hinduism and Taoism and all those other isms. But they don't know about this truth. But now they're starting to see it. So we're at that point now where the word of the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushua has taken effect upon the world. The words that we've been speaking through the power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, through his Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, are actually taking effect on the planet. They rocking the planet, because the Lord said his words don't go out void. And they're causing, they're becoming activated, and they're starting to, you know, take hold and grip the world. And this is why we see the world in the chaos and turmoil that it's in. It says, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. Missiles, the chariots, the lasers from the chariots, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. They're going to be shaken two ways. People are going to be scared. Like it says, Isaiah 13, they're going to, you know, die of heart attacks. But also, when the missiles start to hit, the earth is literally going to shake. It's going to reel to and fro like a drunkard from the impact of those missiles and the vibration that they're going to cause. It's not going to just be one missile. It's going to be 200 million. There's different, you know, warheads. You have China now that has a new missile. They call it 61. It has 60 nuclear warheads and one hydrogen bomb. You know, so you can, well, you know, they don't only have but so many thousands of nuclear war. Yeah, but how many warheads do they have? And how many warheads are they actually, you know, letting the people out here know? Because before this whole situation in Venezuela, who knew that Esau had that type of weaponry? They incapacitate people, make them vomit. Now we knew about the sonar thing where they can incapacitate you, but they did not on that level. Had you throwing up blood and have you all fucked up. You see? So it says, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Yeah, because Yahushua is coming to defend us, man. He's coming to do work and defend us from this monstrous evil, thing called Esau. So let's go back to 2nd Ezra 13. And I'll read 3 again. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all things trembled that were seen under him. Because, all eyes shall see him. And wheresoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. And this also reminded me of the book of Habakkuk, chapter 3. In Habakkuk, chapter 3, we're going to start at the first verse. A prayer of Habakkuk, the prophet, upon Shigionoth. That's like a rambling poem, something that you're seeing stuff and you're like still incoherent. You're trying to, understand what's going on, but you're still writing or you're still reciting or speaking on it. So it's like a rambling poem, because you got to remember when stuff like this happens, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has to put the spirit on you to be able to keep your wits about you. Because there's going to be so much shit going on. So remember, the prophet seen it, they got sick. They seen these visions, they got sick. They were frightened. They were nervous. They were trembling. And when you're in that state of panic, it's hard to think straight. Because remember, this is the day of the Lord. This ain't just no 9/11 or no 2020 situation. This is the day of the Lord. And then when the day of the Lord comes, which we're fast approaching, the Lord's going to show out and show these mother effers, that they better and they must and they will respect him, including you clowns out there that call yourself Israelites that keep denying the name of the Lord. You're going to learn some respect. So verse 2, O Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, I have heard thy speech and was afraid. See? O Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, revive thy work in the midst of the years, because it's time for the Lord to work. This is why it says, though it tarry, wait for it. At the end, it shall come. It will surely come. It will not tarry. So we're at the point now where the prophecies are not tarrying anymore. They're actually taking hold of the earth. They're actually shaking and moving things. Because the Lord said before he does anything, he reveals the secrets unto his servants and prophets. So obviously the Roman Catholic Church, the Christian Church, all these different Islam, none of them churches are prophets of the Lord. They're false prophets. Because if that was the case, the words that they spoke would have been shaking the earth right now. The Lord would have been back by now. Because those are global, religions. But this right here, the Hebrew Israelites, what we've been teaching, going back to Elder Albert Bivens, about 60 plus years or so, this is what's shaking the world. This is what got the world shook to the core, in the so-called religious, circles. This is why you got all these Christians now gathering together. You got like 20 different so-called Christians on a panel, that went to school, college, or whatever the case is, debunking the Hebrew Israelites. God damn, I thought we were meaningless. I thought we were just some, run of the mill, some bugged out individuals. Why so serious? Oh Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, revive thy works in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known. Why? Because before the Lord does anything, he reveals it to his servants and prophets, which tell, speak, prophesy, and then eventually the Lord acts. And we're at the point now where the Lord is acting. In wrath, remember mercy. So when all these things happen, remember mercy upon us, O Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, thy humble servants that are out here, defending your gospel, preaching your gospel. Please remember mercy upon us when all this hell comes upon the earth. When Jacob's trouble is in full bloom, when these devils come with these types of weapons, that incapacitate people. Remember thy servants that have been, serving you, and put thy force field and thy protection upon us, so that when these devils come, they could be amazed at that their bullshit doesn't work on us. Lord's will, we be the elect. It says the Most High came from Teman, which Germany, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. Just going back, the Mount Paran, that's in what they call the Sinai Peninsula, between the Gulf of Suez and the Gulf of Aqaba. Selah, his glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. So his glory covered the heavens. We're going to touch on that, but it says, and the earth was full of his praise. Let's go real quick to, matter of fact, no, it's in the same, no, it's in the second chapter. Let's do this. Boom. Habakkuk 2:14. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai, as the waters cover the sea. So the knowledge is going to cover it, and also the chariot of Yahweh Shai is going to cover it, and the other chariots that are going to come with the Lord, the angels. So Habakkuk 3:3, it says, his glory covered the heavens, and the earth is full of his praise. His glory covered the heavens. The heavens is the heavens of 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 the heavens. Inside joke. His glory covered the heavens. That's dealing with his chariot. Yahweh Shai's chariot and the chariots of the Lord. Matter of fact, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna hold off on that point. It says, and his brightness was as the light, and this is the beams from the chariot that he's going to shoot when he comes back. You're going to have two types of beam: the lasers from the chariot to destroy his enemies, and what Esau calls tractor beam from the chariot to raise up the elect into his chariot. It says, and his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was a hiding of his power. So let's go to the word horns. Now, the word horns is Quran. Like you have the shofar, you have the horn, that you blow, right? Like in this case, well, this one is shine as horns. Let's see. Horn of strength, figuratively. So it's figuratively speaking of strength in this particular verse. Flask, container for oil. That's another term. Horn as a musical instrument, right? You could play the horn. Horn like projection on the altar, right? Because the altar had horns on it. It also had bowls at the four corners to catch the blood, right? It says of rays of light, okay? Of rays of light. And that's what the chariots, the lasers coming out of the chariots. And it goes back to the root word Quran, to shine, to send out rays, see, to display or grow horns, be horns. So you could use it twofold. In the case we're dealing with here, it would be the figurative sense of rays of light or the lasers from the chariot, so you can understand. All right. It says, and there was the hiding of his power. So let's go to the word hiding. The word is chaba yawan, goes back to the Hebrew word chaba, concealment, covering, hiding place. All right. He that remaineth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Okay. So that's the hiding of his power. And that's why when we read here in 2nd Ezra, 13:4, and wheresoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. All right. And we're going to get into some more of this, Lord's will. Let's go back. So back in Habakkuk 3:5 now, before him went the pestilence. And the pestilence in this case, the pestilence represents sicknesses, but in this case, it represents the lasers from the chariot. In other instances, it represents the missiles. That's a pestilence, a plague. A plague is something you can't get out of. A plague is something that once it gets you or infects you, unless the Lord is with you, you ain't going to be able to get out of it. It's going to consume you. right? It says, and burning coals went forth at his feet, which showing you is not talking about the actual pestilence. It's talking about the missiles and the lasers from the chariots. Let's see. Let's look up the word pestilence. The word there is debar, which the word debar also goes to the word, to speak. Pestilence, plague, murrain, cattle disease, cattle plague. So it's a pestilence, it's a plague. But in this case, it's in the sense of destroying. You see? And what is that? That's the missiles and the rays, the laser beams from the chariot, right? It says, and one has what? Burning coals at his feet, because he's going to be up top looking down. The word there is rashab, for flame, firebolt. See, so he's going to be shooting firebolts, sparks. So the prophets explained what they saw in the vision according to the terminology that was available to them at the time. Let's just go there. Firebolt. Thunderbolt, lightning. So what is that thunderbolt lightning? Those are the lasers coming from the chariots, because you also have the law that was written with the finger of the Most High. Right here, Exodus 31:18. And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone written with the finger of the Most High. The finger of the Most High were those lasers, finger of the powers. Salakia. I just want to see what the word fingers is. It's going to be fingers, but this one is symbolic. Atazabai, finger, toe. All right. So pretty much the finger of the Most High represents, the laser that came out of the chariot to write these tablets. All right. So that's a firebolt, the word sharab. So that speaks about the bolt, the coals of fire, the burning coals that's going to come out that went forth out of his feet, meaning because they're going to be shot from the bottom of the laser, of the bottom of the chariot. Okay. So that's the word rashab. It says he stood. So you like to bully people, right? You like to use this high tech weaponry against primitive weapons in comparison to what you have. So when you like to show out, and then you talk about how you went up in there, Trump, he went up in there. Hey, Trump he's definitely what's the word, like the poster child for the beast, the horn that speak very great things, So you went down there, you boasted about how you had no casualties, and no one can do what y'all do, and the military, no one can deal with your military, and if you other nations don't comply, we're gonna send the military in there do the same thing to you. You like to brag and boast about that. So when the Lord comes back, he's not going to show no mercy. He's going to bust your ass sideways, front ways, back ways, upside down. He's going to fuck you up all the way around, man. He ain't going to show you no mercy. He's going to show you that the primitive weapons that you have are just that, primitive, although to the world they're advanced. Remember what those two retired Air Force pilots said, that the technology that they saw, they witnessed on the chariots, was 100 to 1,000 years more advanced than anything the American Army or military has. And they're gonna show out when they show up. Oh, when they show up, they're gonna show out, and they're gonna show you what it is to really be a tyrant, because you are a fucking tyrant. You goddamn devils are fucking tyrants. That's exactly what you are. But now we're at the point now where you're no longer using soft power. You don't use soft power anymore. You come in with that hard power. Matter of fact, let's go here. soft power meaning. Soft power, a persuasive approach to international relations, typically involving the use of economic or cultural influence. What is the opposite? What is the opposite of soft power? The opposite of soft power, attraction and persuasion, is hard power, which relies on coercion, military force, and economic sanctions like threats or payments to compel other nations to act in a desired way. The exactress of gold, the golden city ceased. While soft power uses culture, values, and policies, also they use diplomacy, which is pretty much in a nutshell diplomacy. Hard power uses tangible resources like military strength and economic leverage to achieve objectives. And you use that. You don't have any discretion as to, well, these people don't have this type of weapon, so let's just give them a fighting chance. No. So when the Lord comes back, he's not going to give you a fighting chance. So going back to Habakkuk 3 and 6, he stood and measured the earth and beheld, Salakia, he stood and measured the earth. He beheld and drove asunder the nations, because the Lord is coming back to gather these nations, their militaries. Armageddon, the Valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat, the Most High's judgment, Armageddon, mountain of the troops. And the everlasting mountains were what? Scattered. What are the everlasting mountains? These empires that have been established, these governments that have been established, that are going to be leveled, that are going to be brought under the power of the Lord. That's why it says in Luke 21, it says that the powers of heaven shall be shaken, meaning these governmental agencies that have these strong militaries are going to be shaken from the destruction that the Lord's going to bring upon them. It says the perpetual hills did bow. Also smaller governments that have sway and power. His ways are everlasting, because the Lord is coming to establish his ways upon the earth. This is why the Apostle Peter quoted Isaiah. We, according to his promise, look for new heavens and new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. That's what we're looking for, because this place sucks. This place is evil and wicked. And the only way you can enjoy this place is if you're evil and wicked. We're just here merely existing, as Elder Apostle Gabar always says. We're not even living. We're just existing here. And we feel like Lot. Like the scriptures about just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. Have to see this bullshit all every day. But the Lord's going to wipe it away. One day, a real rain's going to come through and wash all this filth away. Inside Job. It says, his ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. Yeah, because over there where the Lord, what they call the so-called Middle East, which is really, believe that's Western Asia, if I'm not mistaken, or Asia Minor. The scriptures call it Asia Minor. You're going to have a lot going on over there, because that is the amassing, the Joel 3s and the Revelation 16 and 16 gathering of the troops of the Lord, the Isaiah 34, which Isaiah 34 really applies to America, but all of these different militaries are being gathered over there for the final great judgment. Remember, the Lord said, my determination is to gather the nation, that I may pour upon them all mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. And that's what the Lord's going to do, the final battle of all battles, the final war of all wars, which they call World War III, the scriptures called the third woe, is going to take place over there on that side of the world. But America is going to be totally annihilated and left as a monument, a token of what it is. This is a reminder of what happens when you have a people that are so evil and wicked. This is what remains. This is what actually happens to them. This is the reward of the wicked. Was the Lord displeased against the rivers? Right, because there was nothing spared. When you got to remember, when Habakkuk is writing this, he's writing according to what he's seeing, and it's horrific. And he doesn't understand what's going on, It says, was the Lord Yahweh Bashem El Shai displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea? That thou didst ride upon thine horses and thy chariots of salvation? See? So you rode upon your horses and your chariots of salvation, which are what? The chariots, what they call so-called UFOs. Now, let's go real quick to show you that these so-called UFOs are the chariots of the Lord, and the chariots of the Lord are only here to pick up Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and wherever they may be scattered around the world, whatever they look like, as long as their seed line goes back to the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, right? That's who's going to be picked up. But they also have to be the elect. So when you jump down to Deuteronomy 33 and 26, right? Matter of fact, did we read that? Let me see something. Yep. Because we read up above that the Lord came from Teman and the Holy One from Mount Paran, which goes into the same chapter. When you read from the top verse, it speaks about Sinai and the Mount Paran and Seir, you know? That's over on that side of the world, right? So now we jump down to the 26th verse, and this is the Israelites being addressed here. You jump down to the 26th verse. It says, there is none like unto the Most High, the power of Jeshurun. Jeshurun, Yashawan, which means darling. You know, you could also use the word first, like the word Yashawan. Then you have the word Ra'ashwan. Ra'ashwan means first. All right. It says, who rideth upon the heaven in thy help. So the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, rides in the heaven in our help. You see? Can't you see? Matter of fact, we're going to come right back to that. Let's go to, you could always come back to that. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 31 and 5. I started 4. For thus saith the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, for thus hath the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai spoken unto me, like as the lion and the young lion roaring on his prey, when a multitude of shepherds is called forth against him, he will not be afraid of their voice, nor abase himself for the noise of them. So shall the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai of hosts come down to fight for Mount Zion and for the hill thereof. He's going to come down to fight for us. Not the other nations. He's coming to kick your ass for what you did to us. You fucking clowns. You replacement theology. I can't wait for the. I pray that the Lord allow us to see, you know, that we be the elect and allow to see them lasers come and cut your ass down. You fucking false prophets. You goddamn devils and demons. It says, as birds flying, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem. How do birds fly? In formation. The chariots are coming in formation. You have Yahweh Shai's chariot, big, gigantic chariot. And then you have, you know, what are those other ships called that break off from the father ship, from the main ship? There's a term for it, you know. They actually, you know, disconnect from the main ship. Oh my goodness, man. Can you imagine that shit, bro? You know, not shit, but you know, can you imagine that? This big gigantic chariot, then you have other chariots, you know, breaking off from that one, and oh man, you devils are in trouble. You thought you did something in Venezuela. You thought you did something in Panama with your little stupid laser technology, your little, you know, gumball machine toys. You Homo sapiens and your guns. You thought you did something with that? You thought that's high-tech shit? That's low-tech, man, compared to the shit the Lord's gonna hit your ass with. Oh, he gonna fuck you up limb from limb. And he gonna have no mercy on you, just like you have no mercy on people. You beat him down with a continual stroke, he ain't gonna have no mercy on you, devils. He gonna rip you from limb. And your only saving grace, that the Lord don't totally annihilate you for good, is because you devils got to serve 1,000 years of captivity. Then after that, you're going to be rounded up and burnt. And good riddance, because you motherfuckers are a goddamn plague. There's no other solution, ever. If there's ever been a people on the planet that need to be, you know, is you motherfuckers, man. It's beginning with you Amalekites. You dirty motherfuckers, man. You rotten, dirty motherfuckers, man. Damn, you motherfuckers are low. You're the epitome of evil. So it says, as birds flying, so will the Lord Yahweh Shemel shall have hosts defend Jerusalem, defending also he will deliver it, and passing over he will preserve it. So these chariots are for the Israelites, not for you devils, not for you heathens, and you two magpies, devils, talking about, that you're going to have heathens being brought up into the chariot of Yahweh Shai. You motherfuckers, man. You sell out, turncoat, jive-ass turkey motherfuckers, man. I pray I could also see you motherfuckers get hit with them lasers too. If the Lord find it in his mercy, man, to deliver me, man. Ooh, you motherfuckers, man. 2 Kings 2:11. I start at 10. And he said, thou askest a hard thing, nevertheless, because Elisha asked Elijah, because Elijah said, look, I'm about to be taken away, so let me know what you need me to do for you before I leave. And then Elijah said, look, I want a double portion of your spirit. And he said, thou askest a hard thing, nevertheless, if thou see me when I am taken from thee, it shall be so unto thee, but if not, it shall not be so. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire. These are the chariots. It's not talking about an actual chariot and a horse, with fire on it and horses in front of it, and you have this so-called Edomite God riding in the heavens. You devils got to pay for that. It says, and parted them both asunder. What parted them asunder? What Esau calls the so-called tractor beam. Right? What is, let's see, a tractor beam? Let me see if they break it down. A tractor beam is a fictional or real device that uses waves like light or sound to attract, hold, or move objects from a distance. As you see here. Beam me up, Scotty. Right? See? Right there. Look at that. That's what parted Elisha and Elijah asunder. Right? And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Up. See? He went up into the chariot, into the heavens by a chariot. He was abducted by the Lord. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of who? Israel, not the fucking heathens, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more, and he took hold of his own clothes and rent them in two pieces. Yeah, because he was sorrowful. Because him and Elijah were super tight. And he loved the hell out of Elijah. And Elijah loved the hell out of Elisha. But Elisha got a double portion of his spirit. Damn. So going back to, where were we? Okay, so we read that. You know what? The hell with it. Let's go. Psalm 68 and 4. It says, sing unto Yahweh by Shemel Shai, sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens. How do you do that? In the chariots. By his name Jah, which is Yah, which is Yahweh. It's a shortened form of the name Yahweh. And rejoice before him. Jumping down to the 17th verse. The chariots of the Most High are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place. It keeps going back to the same scenario. Deuteronomy 33, Habakkuk 3. The Sinai Peninsula, Mount Paran, which is in the Sinai Peninsula, what they call the Sinai Peninsula. Thou hast ascended on high, thou hast led captivity captives. This is dealing with Yahweh Shai. Thou hast received gifts for men, for the Israelite men. Yea, for the rebellious also, that the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai might dwell among them. Yeah, because you have all Israel shall eventually be saved. Because the Lord's coming he removed transgressions from Israel. But in this time, those that don't believe in him are going to die in their sins. And they'll come back to the ones that make it. Point blank, period. End the story. Not in my book. Yes, it is. Inside joke. Just bear with I. Bear with these doves, man. Sometimes they just slide out. Blessed be the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, who daily loadeth us with benefits, even the power of our salvation, Salah. And that's the daily loading of the benefits of the Lord, which come in many different forms, spiritually, protection wise. Sometimes you might find yourself in a jam and don't know how you're gonna, take care of a certain situation. And all of a sudden, boom, a blessing come out of nowhere. You be like, damn, Barakatah Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Or a brother, spirit might have a brother, come into some money, and break you off a little something that you needed and you weren't even expecting it. These lessons, daily lessons, man. Man, I barely could watch any other brother's videos because Elder Pastor does so many videos. It's hard to keep up with those videos. And all you brothers out there doing videos, it's hard to keep up with all the videos. That's why, you have double time. It's like, put it on 1.5 or put it on two times the speed. Try to get through it as quick as possible so you can go to the next video. He that is our power is the power of salvation, and unto the Most High Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the Lord, belong the issues from death. That's right. But the Most High shall wound the head of his enemies, beginning with Esau, and the hairy scalp of such as one as goeth on still in his trespasses, and you wicked Israelites. The Lord said, I will bring again from Bashan, I will bring my people again from the depths of the sea. So the Lord's going to deliver us from all places on the planet Earth. So let's go from there to Psalms, same book of Psalms, 104. And let me read this verse, and then I'm gotta turn the stove on. So Psalms 104:3, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. So this is how the Lord, this is how the Lord moves around in the heavens, Yahushua and the angels. And then Daniel, when Daniel saw the Ancient of Days, the Most High Yahweh, he saw him where? Sitting on a chariot, on his throne. And then ministering to him, the angels. So one more, and then I'm going to turn this stove on for a minute, and then Isaiah 19:1, the burden of Egypt. It's a burden coming to you, devils. America, Egypt is modern day Egypt is America, or should I say spiritually America is modern day Egypt or Egypt. It just states in Revelation 11:8. Behold, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai rideth upon a swift cloud. What is that swift cloud? The chariot. They said it moves like lightning. These devils can't hang. You can't hang with that. If you try to follow a chariot and try to do the maneuvers a chariot does, you'll be splattered all over the goddamn jet or whatever it is you're trying to chase it, the chariot with. And these chariots be playing with you devils. It says, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of them. Why? Because your chariots are flesh, carnal. The Lord's chariots are spiritual. This is why they could appear and disappear. You can't do that. Show me that. Show me that you could do that. Then you might be able to have a cloaking device, but you can't disappear and appear somewhere completely opposite where you were at. You ain't got that technology, homeboy. So we're going to go right back to, I believe that was in Habakkuk 3. Yeah, because you could read the rest of this, and if we have time, I'll go to it. So we're going to go right back to 2nd Ezra. But just bear with me 1 second. Okay. Salakia for that. Okay. So we're gonna go back to 2 Ezra 13. So when the Lord comes back, the shit that you're doing, stamping out these, these nations that don't stand a chance against your weaponry, and you have no mercy, the Lord ain't gonna show no mercy on you, man. So this is 2 Ezra 13:3. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, that's Yahushua and the angels. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whatsoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. This is what's going to bring about the lake of fire. This and the nuclear missiles, mainly the nuclear missiles, but the chariots are going to be also used, because the scriptures say, Yahushua said, I am come to bring fire on the earth, and what will I if it be already kindled? He's just going to bring more fire. It says, and after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number. What is that multitude of men out of number? From the four winds of the heaven. What is that multitude of men? These are the militaries, Esau's militaries. Let's go to the book of Revelation 16:16. So you can see. It says, and he gathered them together in a place called, in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon, which goes back to the Hebrew word Harmageddon, which the Hebrew word Harmageddon means mountain of the troops. It's a compound word, mountain of the troops. Here you have Har, which is mountain, and then you have Magadwan, where they say Megiddo. Ma is over from, and God, or God one, is troops. See, Gadad, or God, cut, gather together, assemble by troop. You have the word Gad. Gad goes back to the word troop. I guess it just keeps going back and forth between the two. That's what I believe that was Leah. Yeah, Leah. I believe it was Leah. Called her son Gad. So Armageddon, Harmageddon, or Armageddon. Right? The hill or city of Megiddo, and it's going to give you some BS, but it's talking about the gathering of these different troops. Because another scripture that goes into that is Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 3. I have commanded my sanctified ones, which are the prophets. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, which are his angels, even them that rejoice in my highness. That's the proof. The noise of a multitude in the mountains. What is that multitude? Those are the troops gathered together, like as of a great people. Why? Because it's going to be a massive army. A tumultuous. Tumult is something that like an uproar, like a riot, and shit is all crazy. That's how these nations are going to be together. When you see these movies of these different military men gathering together, and they get ready for war, and they start the war chants, it's getting pumped up. And then when they get in the fray of it, you have the adrenaline pumping, the anxiety and the actual adrenaline that's flowing in the veins, like going crazy. Well, that's how they're going to be. They're going to be gathered together. They're going to be coming against the Lord. He's going to kick them in the ass. It says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the hosts of the battle. He's the one that's gathering these nations together. Matter of fact, we quoted it, but let's get it. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 8. It says, therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Because the Lord is coming back to reestablish himself on the planet Earth. For a long time, people have been saying the Most High is dead. They call him all different types of names. He's going to come and establish on the earth who he is, like he did back during the time of Egypt. But it's going to be far greater now because the technology is far greater, and the world is far more inhabited now than it ever was before. Because going back to 1826, I believe it was, that's when I believe 1826, the estimated population of the earth was 1 billion people. Then about 100 years later, it was 2 billion, around 1920 something. Then from that point until now, you got over 8 billion people on the planet. And I was, that spirit just came on me to look that up years ago. And then the thought came to mind that the reason why there's so many people on the earth now than ever before is because this is the time of the Lord's judgment, that he's coming to bring judgment upon the earth. All right, so let's go back. So 2 Ezra 13:5, after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. That's the militaries of the world. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. What was that great mountain? The chariot. This great grandiose chariot. That's why it says, all eyes shall see him. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. Yeah, because he looked on the earth to see where this great mountain was taken from. How is he flying on this mountain? Where did it take? He couldn't find the place on the earth where there was a big chunk missing. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. And you're going to have, the weasels, the ones that start the most shit are the ones that usually be the ones that hide the most, the scaredy cats. The most scaredest ones be the ones that start all that shit. These international bankers, they're gonna be in their bunkers, little bitch ass motherfuckers. You're gonna start all this shit, cause all this havoc, cause all these wars. But then when it comes down time to get busy on the battlefield, you go and run and hide like a little bitch that you are. Revelation 6:12. And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. What is that great earthquake? The missiles dropping. That's why these devils are investing or have invested, and some of them or most of them are probably already in their bunkers waiting. It says that great earthquake is the missiles hit, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Why? Because on this side of the world, the soot, smoke, fire is going to block out the sun, for a certain period of time. This is why they were able. These devils know what's coming. This is why they were able to make the series of movies called The Planet of the Apes, where they show you that the apes, which represented Jake, were ruling, and Esau was in slavery. And what eventually happened? What did they find out? That they were still on Earth, and the Earth was destroyed. And then the second one, beneath the Planet of the Apes, they actually showed you what did it, which was the missiles. That's why that Charlton Heston, lousy actor that he is, at the end of the movie, he said, "You did it, you bastards. You finally blew it up." That goes all the way back to 1968. So come on, man. It says, verse 13, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth. The stars here there's not talking about actual stars. It's talking about the missiles flying. The word star is aster, right? Right? It just says a star. Literally or figuratively. In this case, it's figuratively. See here, it says a star as strewn over the sky. So this is figuratively. So he saw the stars fall from heaven. And the stars of heaven fell into the earth. Those are the missiles. Even as a fig tree casteth their untimely fig. This is why you see in different scriptures, different prophets use different scenarios, different wording to tell the same story. So when she is shaken of a mighty wind, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. This is what Isaiah saw in his vision. He saw the same exact thing that the Apostle John saw. And every mountain and island were moved out of her places. This is dealing with the governments of the world, beginning with the top government, Esau. And the kings of the earth, those bitches, the international bankers, and the great men, the flunkies underneath them, and the rich men, more flunkies underneath them, and the chief captains, some of them bitch ass, generals, and from the different military individuals, and the mighty men, some of their so-called, tough SEAL, the Navy SEALs, and all these different individuals that went down and took out, those Venezuelan, and Cuban soldiers with these high-tech weapons. They're gonna be running and hiding. And every bondman and every freeman, why? Because you're gonna have in these bunkers, you better believe that you're gonna have servants. These devils really believe they're gonna rule forever. So they're gonna have servants down there serving them. It says, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. These are your shelters. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, the Most High Yahweh, and from the wrath of the Lamb, because he's coming to kick your ass. For the great day of his wrath, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua has come, and who shall be able to stand? Because you're not going to be, you're not going to be victorious at the end. You're not going to stand when all this shit goes down. You're going to go down in a miserable way. How is the hammer of the whole earth broken down? How is he cut asunder? You weaken the nations with a continual stroke. Guess what? The Lord's going to hit your ass from something you can't, recover from. He gonna give you that sizzling left hook, and you ain't getting back up, and you ain't gonna get no 8 count. And get the 10 count, you. So 2nd Ezra chapter 13 and 8, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet there's fight, right? Because the Lord's gonna put the spirit on them to fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. It says, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire. The same thing we read in the book of Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter, where it spoke about the horns coming out of his side. There was a hiding of his power. Those are the rays, the laser beams from the chariot. And out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue cast out sparks and tempests. So you like to bully people, you like to show out, you like to kick ass and use your high-tech weapon on people that can't defend themselves. Guess what? When the Lord comes back, he gonna fire your ass up. And there ain't gonna be a goddamn thing you could do. You're gonna get a taste of your own medicine, you faggot. You fucking devils. Can't stand you motherfuckers, man. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.